and welcome or welcome back to my channel. This week we are going to be reading a BookBox subscription books only. This is such a tongue twister. Really quickly, before I talk about the books that I'm hoping to read this week, as I'm sure you can see, I have a new filming location. I bought a reading chair and set it up in my library slash plant room slash home office space. And I am really happy, hopefully, though. So this is kind of a test drive to see if this space works. I live right next to a very busy road, and you can hear traffic. So I'm very, very hopeful that you guys cannot hear that in the background. If you do, we're going to have to figure out something else. I might have to put this chair in another place. But for now, we are test running it, and hopefully this works out. But without further ado, let me go over the books I'm hoping to read in this video. I pulled several BookBox subscription books in my May TBR. If you want to go see that, go check it out, I think right there. But I am super duper excited about all three of them, but one way more than the other two, even though I am excited about the other two. And that is, of course, The Rose Bargain by Miss Sasha Peyton Smith. I have heard so many wonderful things about this book, and I cannot wait to get to it. Normally in a video like this, I'm like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to start with. We'll see in the next clip. No, I'm starting with this one. Absolutely 110%. But I am also excited to read The Scorpion and the Night Blossom by Miss Emily Wen Zhao. Now, I have Song Like Silver, Flame Like Night, and I have not read it yet. So this will be my first book from her, and I am super duper excited. And then I also have Cruel as a Light by Miss Sophie Clark, which, is this her debut? I'm not sure if it is. I feel like I heard that somewhere that this is her debut. If I'm wrong, I'm so sorry. But either way, I am super excited. It is definitely the thickest of the three. So in kind of an effort to get through our stack in a timely fashion, I might see if I can get this on audiobook, and then I'll be able to tell you guys if the audiobook is any good. But without further ado, like I said, I'm going to be starting with The Rose Bargain. So I will check back in with you when I have something to say about that book. I am exactly halfway, I think, yes, through The Rose Bargain, and I am happy to say that I'm loving this book. This book is great. This book is everything I was hoping it would be. I am so happy that I picked it up, but this follows Ivy, our FMC. In this world, there is a Fae Queen who controls England. Essentially, if anybody knows their history, if anybody remembers the War of the Roses, when the Yorks and the Lancasters fought for the right to rule after the Plantagenet line, kind of the immediate line, died out. Basically, the Fae Queen steps onto this battlefield, the final battle of this dispute, and basically makes it so that one side wins, and then she gets crowned as queen, and then the king mysteriously dies, the human king. So she has been ruling England for the last, I think, 400 years or something like that. But at this point in the storyline, she essentially grants a wish at a cost to anybody who is of noble birth, royal blood, comes from another place, who's willing to journey in, and they get a wish if they are willing to become her subject. But England is very isolated at the same time. So in general, when she grants a wish, when the queen grants a wish, she takes something from you. It could be your happiest memory. It could be your left toe, your ability to turn in a certain direction. There doesn't seem to be a rhyme or reason to what she gives versus what she takes. And she does say that there are limitations to what she can grant. But for the most part, people ask like within the bounds of her power. So we don't really get a chance to explore like all the things she can't do. But at this point in our story, like at the beginning of this story, Ivy's older sister like went out in society, like was out in society 2 years prior. And when a girl comes out in society, that's when she gets to make her wish. A man can kind of, or a boy can kind of make his wish whenever he feels ready, but a girl does it when she is presented to the queen. So 2 years prior to the events of this book, Ivy's older sister got presented to the queen, made her wish, and then nothing like became apparent about what the wish was for like 2 years. And then all of a sudden her sister disappears. And that kind of forms a storm of scandal around her family. Her parents stop getting invited to things. She thinks that she will not be presented in society because her family is now tainted because of her sister's actions. But to her surprise, she is invited to the event where they are like presented to the queen, and she gets to make her wish. And at the event, before it even starts, the queen actually announces that she is looking for a wife for her son, like her Fae son. So the queen has a like stepson, which is the son of the man that she, like human man that she married, her consort. And then she has a like biological Fae son who magically appeared 4 years ago, even though supposedly the door that she came through is closed. So her Fae son is now heir to the throne, and she is now looking for a husband at like his behest. And he comes across as like very kind and very like selfless, and kind of all of like he's kind of the golden boy, you know, the one with the beautiful smile and the sociable personality. And then there is Prince Emmett, which is the queen's stepson, and he's kind of like, as Sasha puts it, the foil to his brother. Dark, broody, somewhat impolite, you know, but kind of seems to be like a gem in the rough, so to speak. So Ivy decides that she's going to participate in the trials, or like in the competition to end up as Prince Bram, the like heir's bride. God, what was this hard to say? But she decides to compete in the trials, not necessarily because she wants to be his wife, but because she feels that it's the only way for her family to like get back in society's good graces. She doesn't feel like her parents would do well, like ostracized from society. So she decides to kind of bite the bullet for the family and agree to do this, especially because now her sister has turned up and can't tell them what happened to her and where she was. And obviously that's not like a good thing to like be able to tell society. And so the family kind of like makes up a kind of scandalous story, but it's less scandalous than having no story at all. So essentially, like, she's deciding to join the competition in an effort to like try and save her family's reputation. And it's interesting. Like, the girls are attempting to be friends, but at the same time, it's like, you know, circling with sharks. It becomes clear that one of them has some history with Emmett. It becomes clear that Emmett is a little bit more interested in Ivy than he should be, especially considering that she is in competition for his brother's hand. He starts kind of interfering in the process. It kind of seems like he wants her to win, but the question is, why would he want her to win? Why does he have a vested interest in essentially a stranger? They met once, like in a kind of a chance meeting at the beginning of this book, but since then it's kind of like, well, why would he want her specifically to marry his brother? So it's very entertaining and it's very interesting. And it's kind of, I feel like the only thing I'm like kind of craving right now is I kind of wish that the girls were sticking a little bit more together. They're very much treating each other like cutthroat competition, which is understandable, but there's like an opportunity there for a found family, and we're kind of trending in that direction, but every time we do, somebody kind of ruins it. So we shall see, but I am so enjoying this. And honestly, if we were like going to go back to like a dozen years ago or whatever, I think, no, Twilight came out longer than that, 15 years ago, something like that, I would be Team Emmett. I'm Team Emmett 110%. Bram seems almost too good to be true, and I don't know what's up with that, but hopefully, there's nothing going on under there. But this book kind of gives the vibe that like the big bad that we see is not necessarily the big bad. So he just seems a little too polished, but that could just be, me being a little jaded at this point. So, regardless, I am so enjoying this book. How many so's can I fit in there? And I am excited to finish it and let y'all know what I think. I was kind of bummed to find out that this was not bummed's not the right word. Yeah, well, kind of. I found out that this was the first book in a duology, and so I'm a little bit bummed that we're not getting like a conclusion to the story, but I am excited that we are getting more in this world. So take that as you may. I will also say one last thing before I go and finish this book. I am kind of wondering what's going on with Ivy's older sister. Like, there's this huge stink in the beginning about, her disappearing, her coming back, how betrayed Ivy feels, about how, her sister handled her season and like all of that mess. But we're not getting like any resolution there beyond like her sister is not doing well. And so I'm kind of curious if like this will feed more into the plot later, or if, we're just never going to get more about it. It just feels like it should be important, but we're not like giving it any attention right now. So that being said, I am going to go ahead and finish this book, and then I will let you know my final thoughts and feelings. I have finished our first book for the video, and I am so happy to say that this is a 4.5-star book for me. Now, it was very close to being a 5-star book, but I ended up knocking it down for 2 reasons. The first one is the one and only like true spice scene in this book I felt was like very ill-timed. It was kind of one of those things where like it happened and then the characters went onto like the next plot line or like their next action. I went, wait, what just happened? Like this felt very out of place here. I don't know. So it's not that I wasn't, excited to see something finally happen between these two, the two of whom I will not say, but it just seemed out of place. And the other reason is the ending felt a little bit abrupt. So, safe to say, I am super duper 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 excited for the second book. Between my so and my super super duper duper, we're on a roll today. But things I liked about this book, I loved the setting. I loved the plot in general and kind of the idea of like the queen granting wishes to people and that kind of resulting in some things that they expect and some things they don't expect and how to navigate that. And she is kind of like tricksy a little bit, like in how she chooses to grant things, because sometimes, the wish, she sticks to the letter of the agreement and not the spirit of the agreement. So it's very, very interesting. And I think that she, like the queen, is an interesting character, and I'm hoping we get a little bit more of her backstory from like before she came to England. So this was I thoroughly enjoyed this book. So if you're thinking about picking it up, it is most definitely a fun YA romantasy, and I think that this could not have like, I think this could end up with like the same traction the Crimson Moth had. I don't know. That might be a little audacious to say because that was like the book last year, but I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I am happy that I came off Fairy Loot's like wait list to finally. It took me like a year to get off their wait list, so I am super excited that and grateful that I'm in a position to be doing this video. But 4.5 stars. And if you're considering picking it up or you have it on your physical TBR or something, I highly recommend that you just go for it. So From here, I'm not really sure what I am going to go with. I have either the Scorpion and the Night Blossom or Cruel is the Light. And I'm not sure what I'm in the mood for. Am I in the mood for more of like a C drama kind of, book? Or am I in the mood for more of like a Roman Vatican exorcist kind of book? So we will skip ahead to future me and see what she ends up picking up. But either way, I'm sure that I will enjoy it. As I am sure you guys saw, I ended up going with The Scorpion and the Night Blossom by Miss Amélie Wen Zhao. I was pronouncing her first name wrong, so thank God for the audiobook because that corrected me, and then it also kind of helped me with the pronunciation of some of the characters' names. Some of the characters' names are a little bit difficult for my tongue to wrap itself around, so happily I was kind of switching back and forth between the physical copy and the audiobook most definitely helped. But first of all, before I get into this, I don't know if you guys saw in my last clip, but you know how I was saying, oh, I don't know if I'm in the mood for a C drama or like, a Catholic exorcism sort of thing. The dedication in this book, if you guys didn't see when I like opened it, is for the C drama girlies, which is beautiful, which is perfect because I do love C dramas. I love K dramas. I'm into Turkish dramas, but like I do particularly enjoy C dramas and K dramas. So, if anybody else here also enjoys them, please do tell me because nobody else in my life watches them and I adore them. But with that being said, back to this book, why we are here in the first place. This book follows An Ying. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. She is our FMC. And about a decade or so before the events of this book, the Moa, or the demons in this world, broke the barrier between the Kingdom of Night, which is their kingdom, and the Kingdom of Rivers, which is the human kingdom. And now demons roam the human world and they eat humans. They eat humans' flesh and their souls. And as you kind of come to find out pretty quickly, they actually don't need to eat any kind of, like any part of a human, in order to survive, but it's kind of like dessert for them, which is kind of disturbing and a little messed up. But An Ying, her father was killed when a higher demon attacked her home when she was younger, and her mother had half of her soul eaten. So her mother is kind of an invalid at this point. She's not like conscious or fully there. Her Anya and her sister have been trying to like take care of their mother's like body basically while she hunts for like a solution to restore her mother's mind. And she finds out from a pendant that her father left her that seems to have like a corresponding pendant that somebody else has access to. This person basically tells her, oh, if you are trying to fix this, like if you're trying to help your mother, heal your mother, then you should participate in the immortality trials, which is something that the Temple of the Dawn in the immortal realm hosts. So when the demons attack the humans, the immortals cut themselves off. And so one of the only times that mortals are let into the immortal world is during the immortality trials, which are hosted periodically by the immortals to basically seek out the strongest and best of humanity. And if you are picked to be a disciple or an apprentice of one of the 8 immortals, you get an immortality pill. And our FMC is told that that immortality pill will cure her mother's loss of soul. So she essentially decides that since she is a practitioner of magic, she has a shot at winning these trials, and she's going to go ahead and give it a try. And she sets off on this journey to the Temple of the Dawn. She runs into Yu Chen along the way, and he and she kind of form a tentative alliance in an effort to try and get to the temple, because the trials really start before you get to the temple. The trials really start when you cross the like border into kind of no man's land in between the human world and the immortal world. And so that's because that's kind of where things start. You have to get past all these demons and monsters and all that stuff. The two of them decide to team up, and I'm not going to tell you what she discovers about him, but let's just say that this book is has all kinds of hidden identities. Nobody is as they seem. So, hopefully that's not like a big spoiler. I don't think it is, because it gets, I think, laid out in like the first 100 pages. So with that being said, the two of them are now trying to make their, like, once they get there, are trying to make friends, settle in, not die on temple grounds. Because even though there are rules against contestants killing each other while on the temple premises, that doesn't necessarily mean that your fellow contestants aren't above like screwing around with you, torturing you, waterboarding you, like the whole 9 yards. So the two of them, Yu Chen and An Ying, kind of made some enemies on the first leg of their journey. And so once they are at the temple, they are kind of paying for that. But this is so far, I think, going to be like a very complex story. Like I said, it seems that the reason I say it's kind of like a book of hidden identities is because, like I said, Yu Chen is not everything he seems. And then she also meets Hao Yang. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. But he is a guard at the temple, and he kind of passively helps her out, like not in like he's not actively defending her or taking her side, but he seems to kind of like step in and enforce the rules at the right moment. But I have my suspicions about who he might be to her, which I cannot, at any point confirm or deny what they are and if I'm right, because that would be a spoiler for sure. But let's just say that this book, it just feels like it's shaping up to be a book of hidden identities for sure. So I am enjoying it. Jesus Christ. I really hope you guys can't hear that, but apparently the neighbors have decided now is the time to blow off their front walk on their driveway after mowing their lawn. Like, I waited to film this until they were done mowing their lawn, and now they're running the leaf blower. So I'm so sorry. Hopefully you guys could not hear that, and I'm just being dramatic. But with that being said, I am excited to see if I'm right about Hao Yang, and I'm kind of just excited to see where this goes. This, like I said, seems to be like very complex and very layered, and I think has just a lot of potential for some really interesting outcomes. And so I will check back in with you when I am done. Finished the second book for this video, and I have mixed feelings about this one, and not in like a bad way, like not in a like, I loved bits and hated bits. It's more so that this book contains a lot of like elements and a lot of tropes that I really, really enjoy, and I expected to like be hanging, by a thread in this book. And I just wasn't as invested as I would have expected myself to be. And I think that is why I'm kind of hovering between a 3.5 and a 4 star. Like, there was nothing like I can like necessarily put my finger on, but I just wasn't like, not that I didn't care, I cared, but like I didn't care a ton. So with that being said, this book, has like lots of twists and turns and surprise reveals. So I'm going to have to talk about it in very, very vague terms because I don't want to spoil anything for you guys. But we also like didn't get a ton more about the conflict between the Kingdom of Rivers and the Kingdom of Night. I think we are very much gearing up to address that in the second book in this duology. This is another duology. So, but I just, how shall I put it? I kind of felt like we got a lot of stuff on like surface level. Like I felt that I didn't get like thoroughly invested with any of like thoroughly invested, not invested, just not like, you know, hanging on, you know, every word, every scene, yada yada. Like I don't know. I just didn't feel like we got above a certain level of investment with the characters, with the setting, with the plot, like just none of it. I mean, there were definitely like reveals in there here that surprised me. And I think this could be a really, really cool, like this could lead to a really, really cool second book. But like I said, I just wasn't as invested as I would have hoped. But some things I can tell you about the events of this book. As the trials progress, candidates start turning up dead on the temple grounds. And so the question is who/what is killing them? After all, the immortal realm is supposed to be cut off and have wards in place, but the people are dying in a way that makes it seem like it's a demon. So if it is a demon, how could they have possibly gotten on, you know, temple grounds? And if it's not, who is doing this and what are their motivations besides the obvious of like taking out competitors? So that's kind of happening. Anying and Yu Chen are kind of doing this interesting back and forth dance as they're trying to figure out where they stand with each other and if they can trust each other and all of that good stuff. I will say I never like thoroughly got invested in Hao Yang as a character, so we'll see if that changes. But we're very much setting up for a love triangle here between our FMC and then Yu Chen and Hao Yang. And I very firmly know which side I stand on. And I'm kind of hoping that, you know, I won't show you guys because I feel like it could constitute a spoiler. But the reverse dust jacket of this book kind of gives a hint as to which one she might end up with, or maybe that's just my wishful thinking. But either way, I really did enjoy this book. It just didn't grip me as I expected it would. So, with that being said, we have finished these two, and we are on to this one, which is our chunkiest boy. And I am excited about this one. I feel like this could be a really, really interesting read. It, if I understand correctly, follows two characters in a world where demons, once again, are roaming the earth, and those who are like associated with the Vatican are trained in combat, trained to kill demons, trained to exorcise demons. So I am excited to get into this and see where this is going. I will probably honestly pick it up tomorrow just because it is getting late. If you cannot tell, if the light is changing, the sun is setting at the moment. So I think that I might have hit my reading quota for today. About, I think, halfway, 2/3 of the way through Cruel to Light, and I have some thoughts and feelings. But before I dive into those, can we just have a moment of appreciation for this Naked hardcover? I mean, obviously it's a fairy loot book, it's intended to be pretty, but I think this is the prettiest book in this video so far. I'm a blue girl, so maybe that's it, but I just think this is gorgeous. Anyway, this book follows Celine and Jules. Celine is an exorcist second class. And essentially what that means is you can, if you're like of a certain class or family or whatever, you can train to be an exorcist. And what rank in the exorcist you are kind of corresponds with what rank of demon you are capable of slaying or exorcising. So she is quite powerful. We are kind of getting hints, though, that there is an unusual cost to her power. She seems to be high powered, especially compared to her peers, but there seems to be kind of a cost to using her powers that her peers do not face when using theirs. So I'm still a little bit unclear as to how all of that is working. So I'm hoping we will get, more answers the further in we get here. But Jules is a foot soldier and he is a conscript. So he was left on the doorstep of an orphanage. And in this world, when you are an orphan and you come of age, which I think is 15, you can be conscripted into the army or like conscripted into the police or something like that. I will say that this world is somewhat modern, or is modern in the sense of there are telephones. There hasn't been mention of cell phones, but there's been mention of like telephones. And at one point, Jules refers to somebody as a cop. So I am kind of wondering how modern day we are here. But the whole conflict in this world is that, that centuries before the events of this book, the Deathless God is what they're calling him, came down and actually defended humanity from demons. And in that conflict, he ends up speared. So he's not living, but not dead. And his body is being held in the Vatican. And so there's kind of this, his body seems to draw the demons in this world. So the Vatican and Rome in general is very, very heavily guarded by the exorcists and everybody like that. So the exorcists and then the ones who went to the academy but weren't trained as exorcists, so they have physical gifts. I can't remember what they're called at this moment. There's a whole glossary in here if you need it. And then there are just the frontline soldiers. So the more talented and forces are kind of concentrated around Rome, trying to protect the Deathless God, and the demon attacks are more focused on Rome. However, Rome has kind of wards and that kind of thing to protect it. But outlying villages in the Roman Empire, Nice and in France and that kind of thing, are protected from demons by just kind of foot soldiers and low-level exorcists. So the further away from Rome, the lighter the protection. And so the Selene and Jules kind of end up converging on a outlying city. She, because she's been sent there to kind of address a threat, and he, because he has, he ended up in a pretty key battle as a conscript, and he is told something that he can't reconcile by an enemy. So he's runs into a very high level, high ranking enemy, and they impart on him some unwelcome knowledge, and he essentially deserts to try and get to the bottom of this. So the two of them end up running into each other while she's trying to investigate this, supposed demon, and he is trying to uncover more of his past. And she takes him into custody because he is in fact a deserter, and he seems to keep showing up in places that correspond with her investigation. And so she's thinking that there's a little bit too much there to be coincidence. But I am thoroughly enjoying this. I will say it's kind of, how shall I put it? Complicated, yet not. I know that makes absolutely no sense. I guess everything has very fancy names. In this world, the supreme ruler of the Roman Empire is the imperial I don't want to screw this up, so we're looking it up. We're going to the glossary. Okay, the Exorcist Primus. And then there are two Imperials below him. One of which like rules the military, basically. I don't know what I'm trying to say. And then the other one who kind of runs like the more political side. And Celine's uncle is currently the Imperial Bellum, which is the like military leader in this world. And the current like Exorcist Primus is not in his prime, and so her uncle has quite a bit of power. And I'm kind of suspecting that he's not using it for 100% above board things. For example, like Celine's father, as we come to find out, was executed and declared an apostate. And we're not 100% sure why, but it's her uncle who sentences his brother, which seems a little bit either like zealous or there's something else going on there. So I'm just kind of suspecting that her uncle might be up to no good. And he seems to be particularly interested in Celine and like mentoring her. But at the same time, I think Jules kind of clocked it. He also seems to be trying to limit her, or at least like keep her thinking that she's capable of less. So I am thoroughly enjoying this book. I think at the moment we are trending on a 4-star, but we shall see. But I'm going to go ahead and finish it and let you know my final thoughts and feelings, and then we will wrap up this video. I have finished our third and final book for this video, and I am happy to report that this, I think, is going to be a 4-star read. I very much enjoyed this world. I think the magic system was really interesting, and I especially loved the relationship between Jules and Celine and its kind of complications and push and pull and all of that good stuff. I think that it really challenged the two of them, Celine more so than Jules, but I think it kind of challenged the two of them to consider kind of their stance and their viewpoint on the world, which was really interesting. And it was thoroughly enjoyable. And, I will say this book was somewhat predictable. So that is a drawback there, but I had a good time. And so I'm going to just rate it 4 stars. But with that being said, this is our final book for the video. For a quick recap, also read The Rose Bargain by Miss Sasha Payton Smith. This was a 4.5 star. The only reason it missed the 5-star mark was I thought that the spice scene was very ill-placed. And then I also read The Scorpion and the Night Blossom, which I'm going to be rating 3.5 stars. If I did quarter-star ratings, it would be 3.75, but I don't, so it's just going to be 3.5. But this is it is a very interesting book. It just didn't hold my attention the way I would have hoped for something that was higher rated for me. So those are all the books I read in this week's vlog. I hope that you enjoyed. If you end up reading any of these books, I would love to chat about them. But if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you would like to stick around for a while, please subscribe. Either way, I appreciate you joining me. Bye!